going on, friends? It is not very often that I get to say that Harley-Davidson has actually reduced their prices a little bit. Not only are you getting more motorcycle for your money, but it is actually cheaper. Well, cheaper in Harley-Davidson dollars and cents, which doesn't make any sense at all because they're still ridiculously expensive. But at the same time, guys, you are getting a much better motorcycle, a lot more motorcycle for the money, and honestly, it is actually cheaper than last year's models. So if you guys went out and bought a bike last year, if you like that older style, you're happy with the 114 engine, you're in good shape. But if you were wanting some more power and you like the new restyled bikes, well, you might have got screwed a little bit. It's not very often that I delve into some of the new motorcycles that Harley-Davidson is coming out with, but today's new motorcycles are going to be tomorrow's used market. So it's always good to kind of get out there and see what's coming down the line in the future of used motorcycles. Now, what Harley-Davidson has done, as you may know, everything changed on the CVOs last year. And as you know, everything comes from the CVOs down. Now, what we got this year is we got a brand new road glide and a brand new street glide. And that's great. They redesigned it a little bit. I'm still getting used to it myself. There are some really high points of these bikes, but the biggest high point, in my opinion, is that 117 engine that they came out with for this year in the street glide and the road glide. Now, curious enough, the road glide Ultra and the Ultra Limited, these bikes are still retaining the old 114 engine as well as the Road King Special. But for the street glide and the road glide, the price is lower and the engine's bigger, and it's actually putting out some really decent power. Now, these 117 engines aren't exactly like the 117 engines of yesterday. Guys, please don't forget, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. These bikes have the new head design on it. They're both twin cooled, and they also, if you look down on the bottom of the front of the bikes, that's your radiator now. There's no air-cooled only option on just a basic street glide or road glide. They did away with the specials. Now, kind of the curious thing with these bikes are they're actually charging an additional charge for the color black, as we kind of all expected. But the caveat to that is even with the black option, and even if you choose a color, now, as I mentioned, they're charging for black. Unless you like billiard gray, you're going to pay for it. But it still comes out cheaper than the 2023 models. Now, I'm going to go over kind of worst case scenario here. In 2023, you were looking at roughly $28,000 to get a street glide in black or a road glide. That's with the black finishes. You opted up from the chrome. So I'm just going to kind of look at the worst case scenario here, the most expensive scenario. To get out of the dealer, you're looking at $28,000. Now, if you wanted to add a color option, especially a two-tone, that's where things got really crazy. Now, to get a color other than black, you were looking at $750. Now, if you wanted to go to a two-tone option, which those were really pretty on the 2023 models, you were looking at a pretty hefty charge. Now, on the two-tone options, you were looking at $1,750 or $2,500. Now, bear in mind, you still had the 114 engine. 114 engine wasn't bad, but it wasn't twin cooled, it was still air and oil cooled, and I know a lot of guys would probably prefer that. But when it was all said and done at retail, if you picked a color option, you got black, and this didn't include any dealer fees or markups that a lot of dealers were doing, you were looking at about $30,500 to get out of there in a black finish with a 114 engine with a color option. And then, of course, additionally, you're going to have whatever the dealer adds on and whatever you're paying for the bike in your area. But that was just Harley-Davidson's MSRP. Now, the 114 engines last year, these bikes were rated at 118 foot-pounds of torque, and they generally put out about 92 horsepower. Now, remember, that is at the crank and not necessarily at the rear wheel. Now, what we got going for 2024 is these bikes are redesigned, new fairings, new bags, some other little tweaks in there, but the big story for me is that 117 engine. Now, it is twin-cooled, it does have the new heads, but it doesn't have the variable valve timing on it, which in my book right now is a plus. Let's kind of let that play out in the CVOs and see what happens. Now, I know you don't really want to buy a first year of the Harley-Davidson when they first come out with something new, but this 117 engine with the heads on it and the twin cooling, You would think by now they've got that pretty much well perfected. Now this 117 engine for 2024, Harley-Davidson lowered the price and we're getting a bigger motor with more power, which is basically what we've been asking for years. Now get this, the new 117 in the Street Glide and the Road Glide, this thing's pumping out about 130 foot-pounds of torque and they're claiming 104 horsepower. Now bear in mind that's at the crank. Now you get all this for $26,000 in billiard gray in chrome. Now, as I mentioned, if you want black, the price is going to go up. Not just the color on the finishes, but the paint color itself. If you want to go for black, that's going to be an additional charge. Now, to add black, that's going to be $600. And if you want to go from a color other than black, you're looking at about $850. And if you want to go for their most expensive color option and add the black finishes, that'll be an additional $1,350. But if you want a billiard gray and you want the black finishes on it, you're going to get out of there for about $27,349. Of course, they're going to add dealership fees and everything else. So right there, we're already way below what the cost of the 2023 models are, with a more powerful engine, better finishes, redesigned fairings, if you like that. I mean, the looks are subjective, but when it comes to the mechanicals of the motorcycle, it's not very often that Harley-Davidson gives us more power and charges us less for it. Now, when it comes to the 121 with variable valve timing, there's not a whole lot of difference. This 117 in the non-CVO models, which does not have the variable valve timing, these bikes are not that far off of what the CVO is. The CVO is only pumping out 139 torque and about 114 horsepower. That's only 5 foot-pounds of torque and about a 10 horsepower difference. Not to mention, you're still getting a bike for under 30 when the CVOs are coming in around the 40 mark. Now, if you really want to get crazy, I know once again, looks are subjective, but Harley-Davidson has the 121 HO in the Road Glide ST, which is basically the same engine. The only thing they did was put a more aggressive cam in it, and even though it is just a Screamin Eagle cam, it does make a difference. Now, on the 121 HO, they put the Screamin Eagle SE511 cam in it, and what that's good for is 139 torque and 115 horsepower. Now, of course, that's with the Screamin Eagle exhaust and the tune in it. So you can already see where I'm going with this. As these bikes come down the line and they start to become used in the coming years, you're going to be able to throw a wood cam in these and get some unbelievable power. But what I love about them is they're non-variable valve timing. So honestly, I think it might be a pretty safe bet if you're in the market for a brand new bike and you can swing 30 grand on one. I think it'd be the time to buy one, especially if you want to get a 117 engine. But if you're like the rest of us and you got to wait several years for these to kind of come down the line, well, you know, you got to think back to the old 96 on the same models when it was pumping out about 60 horsepower. And of course, it was probably about the same price as it was in today's money, which obviously wasn't cheap. But you're getting a lot more motorcycle for the money in today's dollars, and that is something really unheard of from Harley-Davidson. Now, of course, looking at these touring models, in the coming years, we could definitely expect that 117 to trickle down into the Softail line, and also, eventually, we're probably going to see twin-cooled Softails. So if you're looking to get a new bike and you want to keep more with what's been proven with the 114 air-cooled engine, especially in a Softail, now's the time to buy one of those two if you're looking at new. Because this is going to be the future of our used market going forward. Because eventually, twin cams are going to fade away just about as bad as the Evo has, and we're going to be getting these Milwaukee 8s, but it's really exciting to see the power that's coming down out of Harley-Davidson, and the fact that even brand new now, they're charging less for it, even with color options. So anyhow, guys, I'd love your opinion in the comments. What do you guys think of these new bikes? Do you think the price coming down a little bit, they give us some more power, and they're completely updated a little bit? Well, not completely. They're still on the same frame, but we still have a little more suspension travel, some other tweaks here and there, but I'm mainly just concerned with the engine, because that's the heart of the motorcycle. That's going to be your big expense down the road if anything were to fail. But guys, I want to know your opinion down in the comments. What do you guys think of these new bikes? Good deal? Bad deal? Or are we just going to keep buying Evos and twin cams? But anyhow, guys, that's all I've got for you this week. If you guys enjoyed the video, please don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. But till next week, guys, you stay safe on the streets, ride smart, dodge those cars, and I'll catch you guys back here next week with a brand new video. Thanks for watching.